13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few quarterbacks I will bench this week. The first guy, Jimmy Garoppolo of the San Francisco 49ers. So ever since Jimmy Garoppolo came back into the lineup here for the 49ers, they've been playing great football, winning 4 out of 5 ball games. The last few games here for Jimmy G. Week 10 versus the Rams, 182 pass yards, 2 touchdowns. Week 11 at Jacksonville, 176 pass yards, 2 touchdowns. And Week 12 versus Minnesota, 230 pass yards at TD and an interception. This week here, tough matchup on paper at the Seattle Seahawks. I give up the 10th least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks, but in my opinion, I think this ball game is going to be ground and pound once again for this 49er team, where we see a lot of Eli Mitchell. We see the defense play good versus Seattle offense. And it's going to be a division game where it's going to be close, in my opinion, where we could see it in the mid-teens to low 20s. So right here this week, I only think that most we're going to see Jimmy G get is maybe 14 to 17 fantasy point range. And this week there's better options out there who's going to score more than him and play better. As far as a game manager and playing good football, he's better in real life than fantasy over the last few weeks. But this week here, I just can't trust him to have a monster game. The next quarterback I would bench is Mac Jones of the New England Patriots. So the Patriots, what a season it's been for them with the rookie Mac Jones behind the helm. And he hasn't had that many great games as well here, but the last 2 out of 3, he scored 20 or more fantasy points, is Mac Jones. Week 10 versus Cleveland, 198 pass yards, 3 touchdowns. Week 11 at the Falcons, 207 pass yards, touchdown, and then throwing. Week 12 versus Tennessee, 310 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and 11 rushing yards. But this week, a very tough matchup for him at the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football that give up the least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks on the season. So Mac Jones, we know he's a good game manager. We know he's starting to get more comfortable as the weeks go on. And hey, this Patriot team has won 6 games in a row with Mac Jones in this team. But they're built on running the football and playing defense. And if you put too much in Mac Jones's plate here, I don't think he'll have a great game. So versus a tough defense at Buffalo on Monday night, I think this is a grinded out, low divisional scoring game. And this week here, I would bench Mac Jones, and the third and final quarterback I would bench is Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons. So Matt Ryan, I don't even know why he's owned in 45% of fantasy leagues still here, is Matt Ryan. The last 3 weeks here, he's been the worst quarterback possibly in all the NFL and obviously fantasy football. Week 10 at Dallas, 117 pass yards, 2 win those. Week 11 versus New England, 153 pass yards, 2 win those. And Week 12 at Jacksonville, in that ball game, 190 pass yards, a touchdown, and an intho. So right here, only 1 touchdown in his last 3 games for Ryan. I know Tampa Bay hasn't been the greatest of defenses, and they 10th most points to quarterbacks this season. I know Tampa Bay, but I just can't trust Matt Ryan. He's not going out there. He's not getting the job done. He obviously misses Julio Jones, who they traded away in the offseason, and now he's without Calvin Ridley the last month of the season, and we've seen how that's gone for Ryan. So right here with limited weapons, only really Kyle Pitts and Cordell Patterson, I don't see him having a good game even in a decent matchup. So that's a few quarterbacks I will bench here for Week 13 of the fantasy football season.